Hi, welcome to the Israel First television program from our studios in Jerusalem. Great to have you with us for this program that brings you news and interviews and features from the land of Israel. And in the studio today, my name is Martin Blackham. I'm with my wife Nathalie Blackham, and we're looking at some of the stories that have featured across Israel. We're looking at things that don't normally get picked up by the mainstream media, and in particular those stories about the end times and the coming of the Messiah, the return of the Messiah. And we're looking for that day. We are in the footsteps of the return of the Messiah. Now, as we come into the studio today, we are still in the Gaza oblique Lebanon war situation in the country. This is still going on, and this is very much affecting everything that's done in Israel. You're probably aware, because of the mainstream media doesn't stop covering the war, probably aware of that, but just to let you know. Now, the first story is about the reservists. Let me just give you a quick background before I tell you the story. The reservists are those soldiers who are not normally full-time in the army. What happens is that when you leave school in Israel, instead of going like you do in Europe or in the United States, going into university, you go into the military, or you do a mandatory service. Now, so the big thing is not which university you're going in, the big thing is which regiment, because there's some elite regiments, particularly for those within the intelligence regiments and brigades. Now, so when you leave school, that's the first thing, and you do. And then after the army, very often people go to India or South America and then come back to Israel. Now, because of the war, this has all changed. So a lot of the people who were coming backwards and forwards have now stayed in Israel for the war duration. Now, reservists are those who have done the army service, have gone back into civilian life, but are still doing reserve service from time to time. And they are particularly affected because normally they're not serving in the army, and they're normally looking after families, responsible for schools, etc., doctors, all through the high tech, all through the different work things in Israel. We have reservists. So those are people who are not normally in the army but are called up in times of emergency. Now, the Israel Democracy Institute says there's been unprecedented reservists call up, which has affected the labour market because people are missing from work, from school, from university, from jobs, from high tech. There's people have disappeared, and so when you come to recruit in Israel for your office, for your company, it's more difficult to find people to fill jobs. The scale of reserve duty constitutes a heavy burden on both reservists and employers, because we're now in the second year of the Gaza Lebanon war. Said the report from the Israeli Democracy Institute, Israel's large and lengthy IDF reserves call up. Because the other thing is that is important to let you know is that normally the reservists are not called up for long periods of time. There's normally, in the past,
few weeks,
right. There's been like even
months or two.
Operation Castel, I think, was 3 months. So which was quite a long time. So, you know, normally a year is unheard of, and we're now into year 2, and there's no sign of it stopping, and no sign, I don't think, until Messiah or the Man of Peace. We never know. Now, Israel's large and lengthy call-up has impacted the labour market, as I was just saying, and it's unheard of in the country. Between 2018 and 2023, less than 0.1% of working hours were lost due to reserve duty. But in October of 2023, this skyrocketed to 5% of all working hours, the IDI said. Looking at the number of reservists absent from work Between January and September of 2023, an average of 3,200 workers were missing in a typical month. The amount of reserve service has remained at a much higher figure than pre-war levels. In June and July of this year, around 34,000 people were missing from work due to reserve duty, and about 1% of working hours were lost, with about 2% of men's working hours due to reserve service. Now, this has a knock-on effect. If someone's missing from a work situation, they're not able to advise people, they're not able to put their input into it. It might mean that a business is closed. For example, some businesses have closed, some shops have closed because the person who's on reserve duty is basically the sole proprietor. There's only him running the organisation or running the business, and in that case, the business is closed. Now, this has a knock-on effect because, if one business is closed, it's not ordering any stationery, it's not ordering any products, and then the businesses that depend on stationery or products aren't having orders coming in, and you can see that the economy is very quickly affected by reserve service. Now, the other thing is that very often the reserves are the top people in the country. They're people who are running the businesses, who are the brains of the country. Doctors missing from hospitals, for example. You might have made an appointment to the hospital for a certain doctor and he's disappeared because he was on reserve duty. So you can see it's having an impact on everything, every way of life. The IDI say it's hard to calculate the impact on the country's economy through gross domestic product. However, it is possible to estimate the impact on business outputs. A year of reserve duty at the level of 1% hours distributed uniformly through the business sector will cost in shekels 7.9 billion, around 0.64% of business output, the report said. The IDI calculated that the average cost per reservist is 45,000 shekels per month. This is based on Finance Ministry calculations and adds up to a considerable overall cost to the economy, said the report. In terms of the state budget alone, expenditure on compensation to reservists reached 8.2 billion shekels. Meanwhile, Israel National News reported that a new infantry reserve battalion is to be formed from former sailors. There is a manpower issue with manpower problems. Former naval personnel will become army. They will undergo army training and will make up the Hallel battalion to overcome the IDF's shortage of combat soldiers. We're now engaged in a war on two fronts, in Gaza, particularly in the north, and in Lebanon in the south. That's the south of Lebanon and the north of Gaza. Gaza is the south of Israel and Lebanon is the north of Israel, if you're looking at your maps. Now, Kan News reported that Israeli Deputy Chief of Staff Major General Amir Baram promoted the process for Navy soldiers, for sailors to become army because of the shortage of armed forces. The new initiative will see former sailors who in the past have received exemptions from reserve duty. Because they might not need so many people in the Navy, very often they will get an exemption to having to serve. Most of the sailors have already undergone naval combat training but are now doing IDF army training into this new battalion. So it's and Haaretz reported also, just at the end of the story, that the IDF is short on forces and has called up reservists previously given exemptions because of not being fit to serve. The IDF is trying to fill the holes in the gaps which have been caused by the war. Army officials say that around 15,000 soldiers, all under 35, have been called up in 3 rounds as part of the IDF's plan to expand the pool of serving soldiers. There is a big need, because of the war, to have more reservists. As I say, these are the people who have done military service, are now in civilian life, but are being called up. So if I can put you in the picture, basically it means that you're at home and you receive a call on your phone in Hebrew asking you to go to the demob center where you are dispatched to different places where you will serve. And this is happening all across the country, and so it's not going away, folks. We are very much in the middle of this long extended war. But what is important as well for you to know is a lot of other things are still going on in Israel. There's still a lot of construction, even though we're missing a lot of the Palestinian Arab workers, as we explained before, have not had the authority to come in. A lot of them, some of them have, but a lot of them haven't had the authority to come anymore into Israel to do the construction. We've talked about this, about the foreign workers being brought into Israel to do construction. And it seems, Nathalie, that construction is still going on, although the cranes are not moving as much as they did before October 2023. There was one of the things in Israel is that it's a land that's being rebuilt after many, many years, and so there was construction everywhere. Now, talking about that, there are still projects being done, including high-rise buildings and building areas or building communities or complexes. And I want to talk about that for 1 minute. Israel Land Authority have approved a golf complex, a building complex in Netanya. However, the question is, for those of us who are freedom fighters, is the Netanya neighborhood a new 15-minute city? Critics warn of the dangers of 15-minute cities. If you're not aware of what a 15-minute city is, I'll explain that to you. It includes loss of freedom, surveillance and restriction of movement, and geofencing. Geofencing is fencing with smart use. That's by phones, computers, cars, etc. Anything which is technological is geofencing. The globalist agenda, by the way, this is a globalist agenda of 15-minute cities. It's going on everywhere. Maybe even near where you are, or maybe you're in a smart city, who knows. It's a direct threat to our civil liberties. Under the excuse of climate change, Israeli planners are building these cities with surveillance cameras. The Israel Land Authority's plan in Netanya, oh, by the way, the surveillance cameras are there to protect us, to keep us safe and to keep out burglaries and to stop theft. The Land Authority's plan in Netanya includes 1,656 new housing units to be built from 12 to 25 stories. Of these, 200 units are allocated for smaller apartments and 50 units are designated for permanent rental housing. Netanya is a coastal city which is north of Tel Aviv, if you want to know where it is. In addition to the houses, now this is where we can start to sniff a 15-minute city. In addition to the houses, the plan features a commercial front along the neighbourhood's main street, an employment complex, a schools, a park, and a medical centre, interestingly enough. All facilities will be available within 15 minutes. Concerns about 15-minute cities include additional fees when leaving the zone. It's possible that they will restrict us if we want to leave in a certain area financially. The anticipation is that these limitations may increase with the proliferation of city cameras, so they are there to see where you are. Advancements in facial recognition technology and the phasing out of cash transactions. This is another big issue which we've talked about, the digital currency, which is the replacement of cash. Now, one freedom fighter described geofencing as controlling vehicles. As well as controlling people, it controls motor cars. Now, if you have an electric car, and I've talked about this before, if you have an electric vehicle, an EV, guess what? It might not go down the street as far as you want it to. One electric car driver reported that he went down a certain road and the vehicle stopped, and the only way he could progress was to do a U-turn and turn round. So there's already restrictions on electric vehicles happening, and you can control them externally, Natalie.
Was it in Israel or was it somewhere else?
I don't know where it was. No.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. I think it was in America, but I'm not sure. It was an electric vehicle, and it was restricted from going down a certain road. Now, this road wasn't a government road. It wasn't a restricted area. There was no reason for it to be stopped, but it was stopped and it had to turn around. And we know that the cameras that are surveillance cameras that are being installed, and you're aware of that. You go, if you live in a city, if you're out in the countryside, it's a bit different. But if you live in a city or a big town, or you live in an urban area, you are aware of these surveillance cameras, and we almost take them for granted. There's cameras everywhere, cameras in streets, cameras on roads, etc. Now, where does the 15-minute city concept come from? Well, the 15-minute city idea is from the dangerous global organization called the World Economic Forum, and that's where you're allowed to boo, from Davos, and they're part of a dystopian future where cities are being divided up into small fenced-off zones where citizens will be confined by physical barriers. Some Jewish people have referred this
modern ghetto.
Right, I was just about to say, yeah, some Jewish people have said it's a bit like what was happening in the 1930s when they were restricted into ghettos. There'll be loss of motor vehicle use because you're not allowed to use your car because of climate change, and we don't want you to pollute the area, so you're not allowed to use your car.
But this is all excuses.
Yeah.
All excuses.
They're like big brother prisons, the 15-minute cities. Now, one critic said there were already listen to this, very interesting. One Jewish critic said there were already 15-minute cities in Poland during the Nazi occupation. In 1941, the Nazis, which I didn't know this, introduced the death penalty for going out. So you couldn't leave your ghetto, and if you left, there was the death penalty. Swedish journalist Peter Emanuelsson says 15-minute cities are a form of population control in the name of climate change to keep track of people's movements. 15 cities that are currently, there's current 15 cities include Ely City, and Cleveland, Ohio in the United States. If you live in Cleveland, then I believe now that's a 15 city. And if you were in the UK, Oxford was proposed as a 15-minute city. I don't know where that went because there was some opposition, or whether they put it on a back burner, Natalie. Now, Silicon Valley engineer turned whistleblower Aman Jabi said smart cities are worldwide being converted into open concentration camp. And it's very interesting that Jerusalem has been described as the first smart city. I don't know if you know that.
Yes, I heard. By Blackham.
Right.
The ex-mayor of Jerusalem.
So it's the first smart city, and he said he's a native, Aman Jabi is a native of India, and he said he worked in Silicon Valley and he emigrated because of freedom to the United States. And he said large cities are toast, they're all converting to smart technology, and anyone still planning to live in these smart cities should make plans to leave immediately, even the smaller smart cities.
See, this is interesting because it's somebody who was not from America, so he has another way of looking at things. Because sometimes when you are in the situation and it changes slowly, it's like the frog in the boiling water. You don't realize. But if somebody who is from somewhere else, who are used of freedom, suddenly comes somewhere where he's seeing that freedom is amazing, and suddenly there is less freedom where he's going, that's where he was from, but he can see it because he can see the two different places. But when people are not moving so much, like the frog again in the pot, slowly she's getting used to the heat and suddenly she's going to die.
Yeah. Now, the 15 minutes that we've talked about this before, and it's something that needs to be opposed. You need to oppose it. People need to make a stand about this.
I heard that some people in England was opposing it.
Right.
I don't know how much is working, and but you always have to.
Yeah, we have to make a stand. You might say, well, is it not a bit pointless? These things will come to pass, maybe, but we still need to do what we need to do. We need to still speak out.
This reminds me again. I think I've told our audience already that when we've done a program with Mobile Eye, which is like special cars, and they are really making like they will be able to drive by themselves. And I was driving the man back in the Mobile Eye office, and I was saying how I enjoy driving, and I was like, well, you won't be able to drive, it will be your car while driving you in a few years. And I was like, I want to drive still. And he really changed. He was like, really like, no, you won't be able to. And I was like, this is taking my freedom away. I'm a freedom fighter. I've been like that since I'm born, I would say. It's something in me that my freedom is so important, because we have freedom of choice. This is how God makes us, which is very interesting, because when you say again this 15 minutes city, and like you have the Clalit, you have the health place, and you become a number. You are in a computer and you are not a person. And this is the problem, because God has made us in his image, and we are all very different. Like again, when I wanted to go to university in France, I've been, is like we are a number over there. When I came to England, you are a person. And it was such a difference to see between, like I love in England this individuality, that you are a person. I don't know if it's still like that, but it's like we are, everybody, human being, which is again interesting, because we are not a human doing. God hasn't made us being human doing. We are human being, okay? Which means we have to be. Which is, again, I was learning, and I really like somebody was telling me, we have a body, but we are a soul. And I was like, this is so important. Well, looking after our body is important, but why is it important? Because we have a soul, and our soul need a body. So, but we are not just a body, we are a soul, and we have a body. Very important.
And one of the things you've done, Nathalie, is research into the Hebrew language.
Yes.
In the secrets from Hebrew you've looked into, because there are secrets in Hebrew, and you've written a book, Nathalie,
yes,
haven't you?
Which is this book, The Beauty of the Hebrew Language, which is because I was discovering that. I thought, I'm sure that some people will be happy to discover that too. And it's in English and in German and in French and in Dutch, because our dear Dutch people, they have a little country, but they love to read in their own language. They usually speak English very well, but they like to read in their own language. So you have it, and you can find it on our website. And yeah, speaking about that, maybe I just speak very quickly. I wanted to speak to you about the letter Mem, which is very interesting, because it's like a water, like a wave, because we speak about living water. Mem is like also Moses and Messiah, which is, again, you have two letters. You have the letter the me when you start at the beginning of a name, and is open. No, sorry, it's closed. No, yes, it's open. And when you finish the less, if your words finish with a me, with a m also, a mem, it will be closed. Okay, so we speak about the Messiah who will be revealed, so is closed. But Moses was with an open M, because he was the Messiah who's been already revealed. We spoke about the plagues. We spoke how he was a savior for the Jewish people to come out of Egypt, which is interesting because, you know, God make the people going to Egypt. It was really to test them and to make them growing. And after the test, God said, okay, now I take you out and I will. And I think right now, humanity, we are all under the test, under the eyes of God, and we will see the Messiah who will be revealed. But we are all under the plagues right now, all around the world. When we're speaking about the ghetto, it was for the Jewish people, but now it's for humanity, because we're coming into the last redemption that we're speaking about that. But like again, M is like Maim. Maim is water. And we speak about Maim Chaim, which is the living water. And you have a lot of things saying about that. The Torah is the living water. They will have water coming out of the temple. They will have water coming out of Jerusalem. Is written in Ezekiel, and it's like one part will go in the Dead Sea and one part will go in the Mediterranean Sea. And when you think about these big rivers, or I don't know how big they will be, but it will be rivers. And we live not far from Jerusalem, and I'm like, in which valley will the river go? You know, it's like, it's preparation, it's like reality. When we come and when we live in Israel, we can see the reality of the Word of God. And again, the Word of God is a living water. So there is always things that we can discover.
And they can get your book from the website. It's www.israelfirst.org. You can order the book online.
And on Amazon.
On Amazon, there's the ebook for those who like to, who can have Kindle or can read books online. You can get the ebook from Amazon. You can get a physical book from the website and order that. So have a look at that. You can also contact us. We love to hear from you. It's info@israelfirst.org. You can also support us. We need your support to enable us to continue the program. All the information is on the website, how to donate, how to financially support us. But if you want any advice regarding that, please contact us. And remember, we're the program that looks at the land, the people, and the language.